Sometimes those who claim themselves to be trying to be better, a benefit to the black community, oftentimes are the ones who are still continuing to propagate this colonialism psychosis that black people find themselves under. And before I go too far, I want to read to you their statement, and then later I'll tell you some of the comments that other people made. But then there was another statement that happened, and something else that happened that actually reinvigorated my spirit as far as, you know, the movement of black people. Now, this person, I'm not going to name them because I'm not in the business of embarrassing people, but they said that name one thing black people will never do. And their own personal comment was love each other. And that irritated me to such a high degree, because then when I hear things like that, it makes me realize how much we are still under this psychosis. But another person posted another image of a quote, and I want you to stay with me and come back, we'll get that. But what's up, everybody? How you doing? This is your Coach Renz, and I want to thank you for being with me. I'm near the airport, so we're going to get that kind of noise from here and there. But if you're finding me for the first time, welcome to the page, welcome to the channel. What we do is talk about the 360 degrees of life, of how we can benefit and make ourselves better through our finances, through our relationships, through our health, and through our spirituality, and how we can do it as a community, not claiming one above the other, not looking for supremacy above any other, but as we do it as divine spiritual beings that are existing in this physical plane of existence right now. So as I said before, a person wrote, like, name one thing that black people will never do, and they said love each other. That bothered me. That bothered me. I put it up here. That bothered me. And then what bothered me even further was some of the comments that came thereafter, and I put those up as well. But a couple of the comments that came after that, and I want to read you a couple of those comments, and I blackened out the names because I'm not trying to embarrass people. But one person said, have one another's back without backlash. One person said something great. They said, let go of indoctrinated thinking, too caught up in traditions that don't even come from our people. And I'm glad they were a voice of reason, but they were quickly ignored because, and I can only stay for a few comments, because then it was like, stop hating on someone because they came up. Stop hating on someone is what they meant, because someone came up. Stay in their lane, you know. So, and if I would have kept with that track, I did go back and I saw that there was even more negative comment after negative comment. And it bothered me, but then one of the persons who page I follow, sweet young lady, she just always putting out good information. But she put out a quote from Dr. Francis Welsing, and she said that we are the only people. I'm gonna put this up. We are the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to sing and praise our detriment. I am a bitch. I am a hoe. I am a gangster. I am a thug. I am a dog. If you can train a people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what is happening. Now, I saw that quote and it made so much sense to me, and I was about to make this video, but then I got messages from people who saw what happened at Morehouse College when, you know, now Dr. Robert Smith took his billions, and I hope that this is starting a trend, took his billions, and instead of giving all the money to the college, I'm not saying that they shouldn't give money to the college, but took his money and said that graduates, 396 of them, of Morehouse College, you will leave this college with no debt. You will graduate with no debt, no school debt. And I don't know how he's setting up the grant, I'm not exactly sure, but I realized in reading that the very same people who were commenting on the thread about what black people will never do for each other will probably find the negative in what Dr. Smith just did. Will probably say something to the effect of, well, why didn't he pay for other people to go to college? Ignoring that there were students, graduate students, regular students, who took the risk and said, I want a better life for myself, so I will take on the loans. I will have to pay these loans for however many years. No guarantee of job, but I got to do something different than what I've been doing before. I got to do something different than what I've seen before. I got to change my life through gaining an education that functions and work in this Western culture that we live in. They did something and stepped out. They took a step towards their own future, and he was willing to take 2 steps towards them. So yeah, you can say, why didn't he help people go to college? Fine, if you find the ones who are taking a step. But this man saw people who had already put forth that effort for so many years were willing to take on the load of college debt, knowing that college debt is probably the next thing that's going to crash the economy. And they moved forward and they took that. And he took that burden off them. So people, like in this thread, will find the negative, which is problematic for me. It's problematic because it's a telltale sign that, yeah, you said black people will never love each other. But this man just showed all kinds of love. But you'll ignore that in favor of the negative image that you constantly see. And that is where I have a problem. Is because you're more focused on that negative thing. And now you put out a thread that continues more focused on that negative thing. And now other people join you in that negative thing. And let me tell you biologically how this thing happens. And I want you to be able to pay attention to this, because you can unravel some of the stresses and the problems that you have in your life, in your home, and with your children and your wife and your husband, with your family members, as well as with your community and with the general society that you're in. If you're running a company and you need a cultural change, this is how you change the culture of your company, your neighborhood, your community, your world, your universe. You see, biologically, anytime you spend 3 days with the same thought, your brain cells will orient themselves to that thought. And as your brain cells orient themselves to that thought, they connect to other brain cells that has changed their dynamics to fit that thought. And then when you get enough brain cells that have collected together in that thought, they act as an antenna and send that energy out and attract others with that same energy. Track situations of that same energy, and then you start to act it out. And the more and more you act it out, the more and more it becomes real. It becomes your universe. Let me give you an example in a relationship situation. Many people say that in this relationship we grew together or we grew apart. How does that happen? Well, if the two people continue to grow together, it's because they are having the same thought. If the same thought, and as I've said to you guys many times before, if the same thought is that you are going to honor each other, love each other, be honest with each other, be committed to each other. If the same thought is, I'm going to wake up every day, and every day as I wake up, I'm going to say, what can I do to make her happy today? I know I made her, 80% happy yesterday, but today I got to go 85. Because I can't go 79 or 75. I got to go 81, 85. I got to go higher. Every day I got to make her happier. Every day I got to make him happier. What can I do today to make that happen? To make that a reality? And the more and more you think that way, and she's thinking that way, and y'all are thinking that way, and y'all continue to think that way, and 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and that becomes how y'all think, the next thing you know, you're finishing each other's sentences. And the next thing you know, you sitting up there thinking about what you want to do this evening, and you call her up and you say, hey, I was thinking that today, we go for a walk, and maybe have a picnic in the living room. And she was like, oh man, I was thinking that today we might do something like that as well. That I just wanted to spend time with you, with no television, with no cell phones, with no Facebook. I just wanted to spend that time. And all of a sudden you're thinking, like, how do we have the same thought? It's because you're sharing those brain waves. You're connecting with that antenna. Like when you get into that company and everybody is in that company, everybody's going for the same goal, because you created a culture like that. You see, the reason why the Wright brothers got to man-powered flight before all the big business people did is because everybody who worked for the Wright brothers were engrossed, encapsulated, had the same thinking. They were all going out there saying that this is what we're doing as a team together, that we're building this together. It wasn't like others who were like, I'm doing this for the money. I'm doing this for the prestige. I'm doing this because I'm the big dude and y'all the little people, and y'all just doing this for the paycheck. Nah, the sun is moving on me, so we're just gonna deal with it. But that was a different mindset, Let's see if we can adjust a little bit. So what I'm saying to you is that biologically, your brain waves will change based on what you think about consistently. And when they change, they then attract others who do the same. So when this gentleman put out this post of what is something black people will never do, you see, he already put the negative connotation out there that this is something black people will never do. He put the finite word on it, never. And then he said, love each other. Find that very interesting. You see, this is a person who doesn't understand history. Black people loved each other enough to help each other escape from slavery. Black people loved each other enough to have their own neighborhoods before integration. Black people loved each other enough that before when they understood what was going on with the transatlantic slave trade, they started fighting off the Europeans. But of course, they were outgunned. Not outmanned, not out speciesed, but outgunned. You fail to understand that there was a time where Africa was the cultural center, the economic center, was the knowledge center of the world. That there was a time when the Africans was on top and the Europeans was on the bottom. If you understood waves of civilization, you would know that they move in waves. They move in waves. Right now, the European is at the top and the African is at the bottom. And according to many different theories and thoughts, the Asians will be the next ones at the top as the Europeans start to descend, and the African will ascend, the black will ascend. And then as the Asian go down, maybe a couple of thousand years later, the blacks will ascend, and it continues to move in waves. You just happen to be born now. You see, you have a very, very basic understanding of life and the universe. You have to gain a broader perspective, and I'm going to talk about that in another video later about how I had to lose God in order to find the Creator, you know, and find myself within it and find that Creator inside. This is the next video, next one. But see, a person like that won't be able to see the beauty, the love that black people have for one another to this day. Won't be able to see that there are black people who celebrate when other black people achieve things. Dr. Smith celebrated all these young black men who achieved something. They achieved a graduate degree. They achieved their bachelor's degree. They achieved their PhDs. And he said, this is my class. That's a beautiful trend that I hope continues. He said, this is my class, and you will go forward without school debt. Because he knows that school debt, as a financier, as a person in finance, he knows that school debt is the next thing that will cripple this economy. And these black men will not be part of that crippling. He's somebody who realized that. He showed that kind of love. He showed that he ain't worried about somebody else's comeuppance. And these people showed that they ain't worried about his come-ups. And see, there are plenty of black people who celebrate other black people's achievement. Yeah, now we got a lot to do. We are the only group that have been trained currently to sing and praise and dance to our own detriment. We're the only group that will say, here's the black business. And then the Asian or the Indian or the white business comes in that's exactly the same. And we'll go and we'll run that other business out of business. We'll run the black man out of business. I said that on another video where an Asian man said that black people got to be the stupidest people on the planet. Because either in Africa, whether in America or anywhere else, we're the only ones who will see a black business in our community, but then as soon as somebody else come in with the same thing of a different race, we go flocking to the other. That's the psychosis we have to break. But we can never break that psychosis as long as there are people who will continue to propagate this idea, this mythos, that we will never learn to love each other. As long as there are those who say that we'll never stay in our lane. I don't have a lane. I drive any lane I want to drive in. I become whatever man I decide to become. I become whatever God is inside me decides that it's going to be. No one determines that. It's like I told you guys. Put everything about you on the wall. See the things you like, see the things you don't like. Take away the things you don't like. Keep the things you like. Add what it is that you do like, that you want to be, you desire to be. I don't have a lane to stay in. I don't have a lane to stay in. I don't have a lane that says that I got to stay out of other people's business. If I see a young black man doing something that's good, I'm going to let him know. I saw a young black man opening the doors for all the women in his family, his wife, his girl, his daughters, his niece, opening them doors and then telling the other young black man, hey, y'all need to start doing this. Actually, let me rephrase that. I told him later, the next step, brother, I applaud what you're doing. I applaud what you're doing. The next step is your nephews who was with you, make them open them doors for their cousins. Make them open the doors for their auntie. Teach them how to be right now. I said, you're in your 20s, I'm in my 40s. You're the generation to teach that generation, not me. I'm not teaching the 7-year-olds. You're teaching the 7-year-olds. It's your responsibility. I didn't stay in my lane. I congratulated that young man and then gave him some extra. When I see the young man's walking around with their pants down across their butt, young man, you're setting yourself up for hip problems when you get older. Young man, do you understand how the world sees you? And I know you should not really worry about how the world sees you. You should just love yourself. But we exist in this third dimensional plane where those things matter. And sometimes we got to play a game to get where we want to be so that we can change what it is. And I don't mind getting out of my lane to bring that to bear. Just like I don't mind getting out of my lane to show what this person put out there, because you're putting that negativity out there. I'm not saying we should ignore it, but we can't sit up there and create a situation where we keep on pushing it. Make it the dominant thought in our brain. Change the dominant thought in your brain. You change what your antenna sends out and brings to you. You change your actions and your vibration. Like I told you guys, you figure out the energy of whatever it is that you desire to be. Change your vibration to match it, and your frequency changes and becomes what it is you desire. We cannot change our communities until we change the energy that's in our community. Until that type of negativity is dead in our community, or is dying in our community, because it will never completely die. But until it has become the minor thought, we got to change and make the major thought is that black people love each other. We love each other tremendously. We love our communities tremendously. We love our teachers, our schools tremendously. We love our families tremendously. We love our black businesses tremendously. Until we change that, we love each other tremendously. And we have to have people like Dr. Smith who gives us an example. But then we got to have the ones in the neighborhood. We got to have our Nipsey Hussles. But we got to have you. Just a regular dude who says that, you know what, I'm going to spend my money in a black community. I'm going to spend my money I found a new pizzeria. I got to spend my money at that black pizzeria. Until we start doing that, the regular person starts building that. Then we get there. We get there. It becomes part of what we do. My children ride with me to go see me spend money at a black business so that my children do the same thing. Until we make changes, we got to make those changes. We have to change the mental state, and then that continues to move. 2-3 generations later, and we're supporting black businesses. 2-3 generations later, we're supporting black schools and black teachers. 2 generations later, we're owning the land in our community. We continue to grow in that format. And I say 2-3 generations because then it becomes a norm. But we can make those changes now. We can. I've had 84 and 70-something-year-old women who I've sat and talked with, and they're making changes in some of the areas of their life that is most sacred to them. And they've made a change. At 84, you've made a change for something that you were born into, grew up in, been participating in your whole life. And now you're changing at 84? Don't tell me an old dog can't learn new tricks, because they can. And so, like today, I signed a new couple for my financial alchemy program because they saw that I offered a free consultation. I'm still offering free consultation for any of my training program. Go to CoachRenz.com/the store. You'll see the different programs that I have. I can give you a free consultation on anything that you would like, any of those programs. And when you see something that you like, we can do a free 30-minute consultation. And if I can be a benefit and help you, I don't mind coaching you. It'll be my honor. But that couple today, I want to shout you out. You decided to make a major step in changing your finances by joining my financial alchemy program. The way you're going to see your money change over the next 6 months is because you're putting forth that action. We can't sit around hoping and wishing and waiting. We can't sit around saying that somebody else. It's all up to you. We have to take that massive action for ourselves. And until we do that, we're going to remain in the same situation. So we have to change our thought, change our energy, change our motion, our movement. We have to change every aspect of who we are today in order to have something different tomorrow. And this couple is doing that. And I look forward to you guys doing that. So join me at CoachRenz.com and we can do that. We can change these things. We can change our community. We don't have to live stuck in a society, in a psychosis that keeps demeaning us, and we keep demeaning ourselves, and then we wonder why. We don't have to wonder why. We can make that change. And remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable.